Thad Brown here with you on the Bills kickoff, the BKL Nightly postgame show. Rachel Leiber, Caleb Carr will join me momentarily. The Bills fall to the Houston Texans. The final score, 23-19. This game disappointing on a number of levels for the Bills. Look, it was a game that I think the Bills, they were favored by 5 points on the road. It was Josh Allen against a backup quarterback in Davis Mills. It was a game that the Bills, a championship team, you would think should win this game. Now, look, that Texans defense, we told you all week long that they were going to live up to the hype, that they were just as good as everyone said. And we saw it tonight over and over and over, just how good this defense can be and how dominating they were start to finish. Look, the Bills had a great first drive. Rolled right down the field. James Cook busts loose for a touchdown. After that, Houston dominated this game when Buffalo had the ball. The only other touchdown of the game was the Ray Davis kickoff return. There are all kinds of things we'll get into. If you want to participate in this show, you can either comment on my X feed, Thad Brown 7, or go to the News 8 Facebook page, post your comments there. We'll talk about them on the air. We're going to go until about midnight tonight. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott will meet with the media. Josh Allen usually doesn't take too long, assuming he's healthy enough to be at the podium quickly. So you'll hear from Josh Allen. You'll hear from Sean McDermott tonight. There's a whole lot to get into with this game. And like I said, this game was about the Texans defense, but really the game within the game from the Bills' point of view was the play of the offensive tackles. I went into this game thinking the Bills had a reasonable chance to be decent, to be functional against this Houston defense, because I thought, yeah, Houston has Will Anderson and Houston has Danielle Hunter, but the Bills have Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. And Deion Dawkins may not be playing at the level he's played at the last couple of years, but he's still a well above average offensive left tackle. Spencer Brown has been playing at a near elite right tackle level. And the Bills did not get that from either guy. Both guys got abused all night long after that first drive. And I know Spencer Brown gutted through the shoulder injury, and give him credit for battling as well as he could. He was clearly not anywhere close to 100% third quarter, fourth quarter, and the Bills had to take him out. But when he was in the game and healthy earlier in the game, he wasn't doing the job the Bills needed him to do. Buffalo needed their tackles to be at least a battle for Anderson and Hunter, and they weren't even close. The Bills ended up taking 8 sacks in this game, Josh Allen did. Of those 8 sacks, Anderson had 2.5. Hunter ended up with 2. So 4.5 sacks from those edge terrors. And then on top of that, there were still 3.5 sacks from the rest of the Houston defense. Anderson and Hunter were going to get theirs. Those two guys are in the top 10 of the NFL in sacks individually. But the rest of this Houston pass rush was not spectacular. They came into this game, everybody not named Hunter and Anderson entered this game with 8 sacks total. Against the Bills, they got 3.5. So they nearly had 50% of the sacks against the Buffalo Bills as they had the previous 10 games of the year. Buffalo's most consistent and dependable part of this team, next to the quarterback, has been the offensive line. And in this game, they just weren't good enough. Now, part of that for sure is the fact that, like I said, that Houston defensive line is ridiculous. They are as tough a challenge as the Bills will see all year, maybe next to Denver, or at least on the same level as the Broncos. So this is not just on the Bills, but that offensive line not being able to stand up to Houston for pretty much the duration of this game is the number one reason why Buffalo came out on the short end. There are a lot of other things to get to, but we talk about what the Bills do well, what the Bills' fastball is on offense. Run game, pass game, James Cook, Ty Johnson, back when it was Stephon Diggs, was it that? Right now, the most competent part of this Bills team, up until tonight, has been the offensive line, and they got whooped. And I'm sure they will tell you the same thing. They know. There's no way they don't know what happened. There's no way they will talk around it. I think Deion Dawkins, if he speaks to the media, will be forthright. I think Spencer Brown will be too. I don't know if Spencer Brown will talk because of the physical condition he's in. Usually injured guys don't address the media after the game. But the offensive line is step 1 and maybe step 2 and 3 of what went wrong in this game. A tough matchup for sure, but just not good enough. That wasn't it, though. There's blame to go around for this one. I think the next part of this team that I want to talk about is the defense. And look, let's start with this. Give the Buffalo defense credit for stepping up in the second half. They held the Texans to only 3 points after halftime. There were 2 different turnovers in this game where Houston got the ball inside the Buffalo 30, and both of those only went for 3 points. The Bills, who gave up 78 yards rushing in the first half, only gave up 30 in the second half. The run defense was significantly better. Now, some of that was because the Bills were committing thoroughly to it, but it was a much better defense. Josh Allen at the podium right now. Let's go to Houston to hear more from him.
Wanted it today, and yeah, I mean, we had a chance to win it there at the end, and got to find a way.
What did you see on the final play?
Final play, looking like man, just dropping back and just trying to get it to one of our open guys. Yeah.
On the fourth down play, it appeared on the sidelines on the TV broadcast that you might have been saying, "What are we doing on that play?" Was there some miscommunication, or were you just not happy with the play, or?
Just frustration on my part. In a situation like that, probably should have just banged a timeout. We got the play in late. Didn't give ourselves a chance there.
How difficult is it to deal with that pass rush? Obviously, taking all those hits. Can you even put into words how it is to get through a game like that? Most sacks of your career.
Yeah, it's not fun. I ran into a couple myself. I got to be better throwing the ball away and living to see another down and letting us play some situational football and pinning them deep. And too many times I was going backwards, and I got to be better on that.
Do you think you could use the flat more, throwing the ball, dumping it off like you did to, I think it was Secure, or I think it was
Sure, yeah.
22, 26 when you took off and was able to Ty Johnson, not sure. You think they could have went more on those flat?
Listen,
on the blitz, all that?
it's hindsight's 20/20. Ultimately, we got to execute, and we didn't do a good enough job of that tonight. Whatever situation, whatever circumstance, we got to put our head down and find a way there. And on the field, we didn't. That's what it comes down to.
With, like you say, finding a way, but you had so many injuries happening on both sides of the ball. How is it to deal with that as it's happening during the game, and to, like you say, stay focused when kind of everything seems, at some point, even the ref got hurt, everything's kind of falling apart?
Yeah, again, had a chance to win it there at the end, so that we did a good job of staying in it. Defense bailed us out at times, and again, we drive in the ball on that last drive, and we gotta find a way to get in. We didn't.
What happened on the first interception?
First interception, honestly, he made a really good play. Zero was kind of pushing to the flat, and I saw Elijah for a split second was open. I can try to put the ball a little bit higher. That was just one. I feel like he made a really good play.
With the pressure they were causing, what was it like for you at the line before the snap? Just in terms, coming into the game, you said they didn't do a lot of anything exotic, but just in terms of projections and checks, what was the challenge like just facing that group?
It's a good unit. It's a really, statistically, I think they're the tops in basically everything that you can be, the tops, and then they showed that tonight. It's a really good football team. Thank you, guys.
All right, Josh Allen addressing the media there after the game. Not much surprising, I don't think, from what he talked about. He talked about the interception being a good play. I thought that was a poor decision. Look, the defense is going to do what it's going to do. So in terms of being able to make a play, I think give them credit for that. But this was a game, like Josh Allen certainly did not have a big part of this game or a big hand in saving this game for the Bills. There wasn't a whole lot he could do. But Allen, not good enough, bottom line. All right, Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert are in right now. Caleb, let me start with you quick here. Just give me, really, you can go anywhere you want with this. Thoughts on what happened from the Bills in this game against Houston.
My initial thought is that it's kind of crazy to me. I guess it's not that crazy with how bad their offense has been, but this Houston defense looked really, really good. They've looked this good all season. So it's kind of a surprise to me that this is only their 6th win, I believe. But then I take that back kind of because their offense isn't great and Davis Mills is in right now. CJ Stroud has his problems, but this was kind of just, the offense looked not nearly as good as it did last week, obviously. I thought it looked better than it has at times this year. There were points that
The Bills offense?
The Bills offense looked a little bit better at times, but that offensive line, I don't know if it was the fact that the offensive line was playing poor or the fact that Will Anderson just had whatever he want, just one of those days. But what was it, 8 sacks, I believe, for 70 yards?
8 for 70 is what it was.
8 sacks alone is really bad. But for 70 yards, you're losing 70 yards on sacks. It's just, that seems like an insane number to me.
Rachel?
Yeah, this offensive line looked horrible. I mean, I know they were kind of dealing with injuries. Spencer Brown went down. Deion Dawkins went down at one point. But, I mean, this was just... It was bad. I mean, we know this Bills offense has been bad, but this has just been this kind of highlighted it, I feel like, for me, of the problems I think were amplified tonight of what is actually wrong with this Bills offense, and that is the lack of receivers. I mean, there were a few good plays that Shakir made. Josh Palmer had a few good grabs. But, I mean, this line is... It feels like while they have had a good season, tonight really just amplified the unit as a whole just not coming together, and that's what happens.
Amplified is the right word, 100% the right word. Everything that we've talked about with this Bills offense, except for the offensive line part, the offensive line to me was a surprise. Everything else, though, that the Bills have had trouble with was amplified tonight, primarily the receivers, because as poor as the offensive line played, there were still a number of sacks in this game that were Josh Allen having time and just having nowhere to go with the ball. He talked about it in the postgame there, about how he ran into a couple, and he did. I thought the 6th sack, I can't believe we're talking about sacks this way, but this is where we're at. The 6th sack was one where Allen had time, dropped back, had nowhere to go, spins around, and all of a sudden he's on the ground because Houston is in a good position. And give the Texans credit for having disciplined rush lanes to where Josh Allen couldn't escape most of the night. But that was a part of this game too. And for all the talk this week about whether Keon could play, whether the Bills needed him to play, this underlined why the Bills have been trying to get Keon Coleman's act together, because the offensive or the receivers in this game who haven't been good enough all year weren't good enough again in this game. Khalil Shakir 8 for 110. Give him credit. He had a nice game. But half of that was the little blitz or the blitz dump where he makes a nice play after the catch. That's what Khalil Shakir does, is make guys miss when you have the ball in his hands. Another 30 of that is on the hook and ladder, which was an amazing play that we need to give a few minutes to at some point, because even though this was a loss for the Bills, that was unreal. But this receiving group isn't good enough. And when the offensive line is getting beat like this, whether it's their fault or not, it's probably a combination of both, this isn't good enough.
Yeah, me and Rachel were talking right before we came in. I was out in the news studio for the 11 o'clock show, so I didn't actually catch the last few plays. So I was looking back, and I made the comment to Rachel that when you're going to Gabe Davis with the game on the line, that one, now he almost caught it. He almost got his foot down. He almost made a great play.
I like the choice, too. For what you had available.
For what you have available.
Yeah.
But the fact that your best option in that situation, you're like, we need a big play. This is the play we're calling. This is the route that's being ran. The fact that Gabe Davis right now is the best option for this Bills team. Now, granted, he had an okay game last week, and I think he can be okay for this unit, but like, I don't think he's the guy that you want game on the line.
You know who the guy is you want in that spot?
Probably Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
But you want a better Keon Coleman than what we've seen
for sure
the past few weeks.
Or
a Keon Coleman that shows up to meetings.
Of the available options, Keon Coleman's the one I want. The guy I've seen all year is probably not going to do much better than what Gabe Davis did.
Probably not.
But in that spot, that's what you spent the draft pick on. That's why you have that guy. All right. I want to move on to the defense here for a little bit, because I started to talk about them and then Josh Allen came to the podium. Second half, they were pretty good. Only allowed 3 points. There were 2 turnovers in this game where Houston got the ball inside the 30. Both times, those were only field goals. Run D was better. They only allowed 30 yards rushing in the second half. Ended up giving 109 rushing in the game, which in the grand scheme is bad. But in this game, and for what they've been doing, isn't terrible. The end of the first half drive, to me, is the thing that really decided this game, separate of the offensive line being a collapsing tent all night. How do you let Davis Mills go down the field? Let's get the exact numbers here.
75 yards, wasn't it? All passing.
All passing. Yeah, I want to get the whole 6 plays, 75 yards, 98 seconds. 7-yard pass, 19, 8, 33, a miss, and then the touchdown on what was going to be the last play of the half. There was not going to be, even though it's second down, there's not going to be another chance. Rachel, I know the Bills lost Max Hairston in this game. They lost Terrell Bernard in this game. They had a number of players who were in and out. Everybody was healthy for that drive. That drive is inexcusable against a backup quarterback. Bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, we said first quarter. Oh, Davis Mills hasn't done anything. He looks really horrible this game. And
He
then he
was-
pulls out that drive.
We
and
were
it's
we were debating whether he was actively hurting the team.
And so, I mean, I think we might have jinxed him a little bit or jinxed the Bills a little bit. But I mean, to go when you have a minute and a half or whatever you said the time was, and in the air the entire drive, he does exactly that. Like you said, that was the definitive drive of this game that showed, okay, he's capable, and if they want to get the ball down the field fast and they actually need to get this offense rolling, they can do it. And I think the Bills just, I don't know if they were riding some high off of that 97, return that they just had
return
from Ray Davis right before that. But I mean, they were sleeping, and that just showed, okay, I think Houston maybe woke up a little bit and said, okay, we can take advantage of this Bills defense. And then that was, like you said, when they were healthy, and then people start dropping like flies. It seemed like everybody went out and went into the 10th this game. And then
They were better in the second half when guys were hurt, though.
that's true. That is true. But I mean, it's just, just on both sides was just a very poor showing. And I think, like we said, Davis Mills doing that to this Bills defense is not a good sign, I think, moving forward at all.
There are many not good signs. So again, Caleb, they find a way in the second half. I don't know how many flowers you want to provide for this defense for the way they play in the second half. So Davis Mills put up 20 in the first half, right?
Yeah.
He's had 29 starts in his career. That was only the third time he scored 20 in the first half. That was only the second time this year Houston as a team had 20 in the first half, whether it's C.J. Stroud or Davis Mills. The first time was when they played Baltimore, and Baltimore was at the height of their injury disaster back in like week 4 or 5. As much as you want to give the defense credit for what happened in the second half and what they did after turnovers, they gave up 2 big touchdown drives. And the other part of this, too, is the first touchdown drive involved the 4th and 1 where Taron Johnson had Woody Marks lined up for a stop and just got run over. And that was not the only time that happened to this defense in general in the game. If we want to bring up an old trope about things we've talked about the Bills having trouble with, tackling was an issue. Now, not necessarily as getting physically run over as they did in this game, but it's still tackling at the end of the day.
Yeah, the Bills apparently have a problem against first-string running backs, second-string running backs, third. Doesn't matter where you are on the depth chart.
Was third string. This week, I think Woody is technically a third string if you want to count Joe
If you
Mixon.
want to count everybody, I think he's playing up because of injuries, but coming into the season, he was lower down. So it doesn't matter where you sit on the depth chart. If you're facing Buffalo, I mean, pick up who are they playing next week? Pick up the fourth-string running back for fantasy just to be safe.
Jalen Warren and
I don't
Kenny
even
Gainwell
know.
in Pittsburgh.
Jeez. Gainwell's going to have a day.
Right?
Oh, my gosh. I thought the defense played really, really good in the second half. To your point, I'm counting 3 3-and-outs, 1 field goal that was 7 plays, 14 yards that resulted in a field goal. And then obviously the end of game play. And then even the second to last, or the drive right before the Bills' final drive, it technically wasn't a 3-and-out because they got a 16-yard pass to open it up, but then they got 4-and-out. Yeah. So it was pretty darn close, as close as you can get. I thought the defense played great in the second half, and honestly, for most of the first half. Now, obviously, we talked about how bad Davis Mills looked and how inaccurate he was, so that definitely plays part of it. But for most of the first half, for the first couple drives, even their long field goal drive, I thought they kind of stood up when they need to, which has kind of been the big part of this Bills defense has been not break. But they broke bad in that second. I think that the first touchdown drive was mainly run plays, but it started off with a deep pass to Nico Collins. I mean, give credit to the Houston receivers as well. They have a pretty good group of receivers. Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, I think it's Jalen Higgins or Jaden Higgins, one of those two.
Yeah.
They played very well. I think they made Davis Mills look better than he is, especially on those 2 touchdown drives.
Nico Collins will do that to a lot of quarterbacks.
Yes, exactly. But I don't care who it is, though. I mean, if C.J. Stroud was in there, then I would say, okay, I guess he beat you. But I don't care if you have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Devontae Adams out there. Davis Mills should not be cooking you up like that.
The one thing about the Texans' offensive drives, except for the ones where points were scored, the Bills were pretty good. Here are the non. I know it's like, except
even
for that,
the ones that the points were scored, that field goal.
the 2 turnover stops.
Yeah.
Other than the 3 long drives, here are the number of plays the Texans had on each of their drives. Other than that, how was the play Mrs. Lincoln is what this conversation is going to turn into. But for that point, 3 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays, and a 7-play drive on the 1 field goal where they were able to convert a first down early and then got into 3rd and 15 and got out of the way. So on the good drives, the defense was great. And some of that was, I know exactly. Some of that was Davis Mills, but it wasn't a total disaster for the defense. But that end of the first half drive, I think, was the killer, as we talked about. All right,
Yes.
I want to go back to the offensive side of the ball. Let's talk about Joe Brady, because I really liked the way he opened this game. Quick throws, get the running backs involved, take those edge guys out of the game, even converted a third down on a swing pass, and then use James Cook to run the ball, hit the 45-yarder. After that first quarter, though, it seemed like he had no answers. And this is, to be honest, it's not really surprising. I think you see a lot of games where you have a situation where I think the offensive game planner or one game planner, usually it's the offensive game planner, comes in with great ideas. I've been watching film all week. We're going to hit him on this, this, and this. And that's what you do early. But then the defense, who's more talented, looks at it and says, okay, this is what you're going to do to me today? That's fine. I'll adjust. And now you're dead. And that's what happened in this game. And this goes back to my thought about coordinators, where there are very few great coordinators either side of the ball. It's just a matter of how good your players are. And in this game, Joe Brady did a nice job drawing stuff up early. Once he ran out of tricks, it was over. The two plays at the end, one that was terrible, and I want you guys to react to either one any way you want to. The terrible play was the 4th and 1 run where he goes counter run. To me, it was a play. Hey, it's a play the Bills have ran 15 times in the last 3 weeks, and teams know how to stop it. They absolutely know how to take it away. And it's a slow developing play. So you don't give James Cook an opportunity to get started. You don't give James Cook an opportunity to get some speed going and to put him in his spot where he's at his best. A horrible play call, even if I like the idea to go for it there. On the flip side, the hook and ladder was fantastic. It was the perfect call for 4th and 27, something the Bills have been working on since training camp. So, look, I think overall, this was probably a neutral to maybe even good game for Joe Brady, considering what he had to work with. But there were mistakes he made as well.
I think the 4th and 1 call is the bigger issue for me. I mean, obviously the 4th and 27 was a great play that I think might be the highlight of this game for the Bills. But I mean, the 4th and 1 call, like you said, you don't give James Cook any time to really develop. And we've seen that play before, and it hasn't worked for the Bills. I don't know why aren't we just giving Josh Allen the football and having him, you know.
I don't want to kill Brady there, you know, because we have gotten on him for taking the ball out of James Cook's hands late. So I'm all right with that part of it, just the play call is wrong.
I mean, it's just, we've seen, they went for it on 4th and 1 several times tonight. I think that might have been the only one they weren't successful on, maybe the Bills.
I'll review it, but go ahead.
I believe so.
But yeah, it's just, that is, you have to convert that. That's kind of, that might be, maybe even be the changing point of this game. If you get that call, I mean, who knows where you set yourself up in the last 5 minutes of the game. But I mean, yeah, just, it wasn't the right call, as you said. I mean, you kind of pretty much captured everything that I wanted to say. But yeah, the highlight though was the 4th and 27. That we'll be thinking about that. But at the 4th and 1, just bad call.
It would have been 10 minutes ago. So a lot of time left. If you get a touchdown there, you would have had a first down somewhere around the 20. So not about to bang it in for a touchdown, but definitely would have been in much better shape. Caleb?
Yeah, I think the other part about that 4th and 1 is, you know, I'm with you. I don't like the play call. I like going for it. I like giving the ball to James Cook. I don't love the exact play call, but I hate the play call even more because of just how beat up the offensive line had been all night. Like that play maybe works if your offensive line was creating some holes. Now in the run game, there were some holes created. Granted, I think most of James Cook's runs were like him bouncing to the outside and finding the space rather than the offensive line making the space. But your offensive line is just getting cooked all night. A slow developing run is the last place you want to go. I could maybe find an argument for it, like if the offensive line had been good and if they looked solid all night, but that's not even close. The hook and ladder, I mean, exactly what you guys said. It was great. It's less great because you weren't able to capitalize on it. But yeah, I think Khalil Shakir had a really good day. I love the play call. I love the play design by Brady. I think I'm kind of with you that I thought he had a neutral day, but honestly, that one play call, even with the loss and even with how they struggled, that one play call bumps me up to say he had a good day.
The hook and ladder, I'm sorry?
The hook and ladder, yeah.
I'm managing a few things over here. Just so
you're
you
good.
That.
You're good.
One thing I want to point out, you know, James Cook had 75 yards in the first half, right? Mm-hmm. And this is something I thought I would have a chance to review it till just now. So the Bills come out in the second half, and the first drive is a 1-yard run, 18-yard pass, then run, sack. So I'm not against that. James Cook was running the ball well. I think you want to commit to the run. It didn't work for you on that first drive, whatever, you move on. The next 3 drives of the second half, 4-yard run, throw off the field, 4-yard run, throw off the field, although the second throw was a completion and a first down, and then Shakir fumbles it. Then even the play where they went to 4th and 1, we just talked about that. They go throw, scramble, so basically a throw, but Josh Allen bails it out with a scramble. After that, though, a second down run, bust for 20. Then they go back to Cook for 3 and for 5, and then they went to him the next 2 plays. He doesn't get the first down. The point I want to make, though, is that you've got a long stretch of the fourth quarter there where the game is still very much in doubt. And the guy who's been working for you, the thing that's been working for you in the first half, James Cook, you pretty much went away from him. Even after 2 of those drives, he started with a 4-yard run, which is a successful play. If you're in 2nd and 6, you're fine. They went away from it after that. So another, from my point of view, negative on the Joe Brady side.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that there are quite a few negatives, especially early in that, after that first touchdown drive. It seemed like nothing was working. If you're going to, I don't like the fact that they went to him, 3-4 times right before that 4th and 1? Going into that 4th and 1?
That series was all James Cook, 4 runs in a row.
Yeah. You can't, I mean, as much as I like giving the ball to James Cook, I feel like you got to break it up, because once you get down to that 3rd one, it's like, come on.
I hear you. I think that's second guessing. You know, I mean, we have, again, going back to the 3rd and 1 end around to Elijah Moore against Atlanta. That's the kind of thing where we came back and said, why aren't you giving the ball to James Cook? So
yeah, okay.
I'm not gonna kill the choice of ball carrier. I think the thing that's wrong there is the play. All right, like we said earlier in the show, if you want to get involved in this at home, you can comment on the News 8 Facebook page. There's a post with the final score. I got a couple comments here. I want to run by you that I like. Justin Cox, 4th and 1 2 times. Neither time the Bills went quarterback sneak or tush push. Now, I think the second one was the one where Deion Dawkins was into a false start. That doesn't really count as a 4th down. I don't remember the other one they failed on, because they failed on 4th down at the end of the game, which was 4th and 6, and then the 4th one we're talking about. Regardless, let me throw this at, and Rachel, you can take this one first. Is it right to criticize the Bills for not going tush push? That 4th and 1 was 4th and 1.5, so it was a longer play. And I guess you could say if you go tush push, Deion Dawkins probably doesn't false start on the second one.
The last fourth
the
one.
Very end of the game, yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of the tush push, because in that situation, to me, I would want Josh Allen being the one to run the ball, to take the ball. Especially, like you said, James Cook. We're blaming the play call for the James Cook 4th and 1 prior to that. But I mean, before then, James Cook isn't really breaking through any past 4-yard rushes, if he's even getting that. So to me, I think that is the right way to go. But I mean, Deion Dawkins false starts, and then you never know. So I don't know. Deion Dawkins is in the doghouse for me.
Goes back to the top of the show where the offensive tackles were the problem. You're right. You're right. Caleb, on the tush push idea?
I would like to say that they did go to Allen for a tush push at the beginning of the game. That first touchdown drive.
First drive, yeah.
First drive, it was a 4th and 1, and Allen kind of went over the top for 3 yards. So I don't know if that takes into account maybe the fact that they didn't go to it again later in the game. You know, unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles, it can be kind of tough to get multiple tush pushes. But also, you would think unless you're Josh Allen, it would be multiple. It would be hard to get multiple in a game. So I still agree that they should have gone to it, but I would like to note that they did go to it earlier in the game, and that might be the reason why they didn't go back. You know, there might have been something that they saw on that one, because Allen did have to go over the top. And I don't think he was planning on going over the top. I'd have to rewatch the play, but it kind of looks like he
altered it late,
which could be something that they saw, because now they're like, okay, we run it again. They're going to have someone ready for him if he tries to go over the top, and they stuffed it up the first time. So again, we'd have to go back and look to see how accurate that is, but that could be a factor of why they didn't.
I think that's fair. I also think it was 4th and 1.5 on the one to James Cook, so that's a tough tush push spot. I think the Deion Dawkins false start was 4th and 1+ also. So to your point, you've been getting beat up on the line all night, and the first one worked because Josh Allen kind of went out of the box.
Yep.
I tend to lean that way, that I don't think the tush push was the right call necessarily, or why are you not bothering to do this kind of thing. It's midnight right now. We're still waiting for Sean McDermott to come to the podium. We're going to stay on the air here until 12:30 to talk about this game, to hear what Sean McDermott has to say, to take your comments as well. I'm going to skip the comments for now. I'll come back to that in a minute. Someone did bring up, actually, let me find this comment. This is what brought it up to me. Maybe it was on X. Hang on a sec. Yes, Tom Allen on X. Tom Allen, WNY. One of the more underrated reasons the Bills lost this game is because Matt Prater missed an extra point right at the start. Yeah. That 1 point was absolutely a monster at the end of the game. Not only at the end of the game, but I would argue that if that game is 23-17 on the 4th and 1 where James Cook gets stopped, I think Buffalo kicks a 3 there. Because if you make it a 3-point game with 10 minutes to go, a lot of things that can happen. And we're going to go to Houston now for what Sean McDermott has to say after this game.
Let's go down. Guys gave it all they had, and we came up short. Things you can't do against a good football team and a good defense overall. Let's just start field position-wise. We beat ourselves from a field position standpoint, some costly penalties, the turnovers, 3 turnovers. Just look at it overall, and we weren't playing enough complementary football, and we still had a chance to win at the end of the game. But plenty of things we need to work on. So time's yours.
So offensively, obviously the pass rush was great, but they were doing it with 4. Is that a little bit of a concern that they were able to get that much pressure with 4?
Well, that's how they've built it, and that's what you want to be able to do. We've talked about that a lot, right? I think they had 12 hits on Josh, 8 sacks. It's not a healthy formula right there.
This was the least amount of pressure applied to Texans quarterback this season. Why was it so hard to generate anything for you guys on that side of the ball?
Well, they were doing a good job of staying on schedule at times, getting the ball out of his hand. They do a good job with that. We knew that coming in. Mills throws the ball quickly, and we knew we were going to have to get our hands up to affect him. Thought the effort in the second half by the defense was outstanding. Gave us a chance to win, but the drive before half, the big play, the chunk right there, we got to be better. That was an important drive right there. So overall, we go back to work and continue to push forward here.
On the 4th down play, when we went and spoke, Josh said that he felt the play was late coming in and maybe he should have called timeout. Is that the way you saw what happened on that play?
Yeah, I'm usually, listening to Joe in terms of, hey, do we need one, do we not? I didn't hear that at that point. I'll talk to Josh and follow up. But that's how it went down.
Sean, I know injuries are part of the game, but at some point are you throwing your arms up just when is it ever going to end, especially on defense?
Yeah, can't do that. I respect your question, Sal. Can't do that, right? We gotta stay in this thing, man. We grind and we grind it out, and that's what you do. You compete, you sign up. This is what you do, no matter you have no injuries or you have the injuries that we have. I do appreciate, again, like I've said before, guys stepping in tonight. Shaq went in there. Other guys were going down. Some came back, some didn't. Max, did not come back. But like I said, the effort, the will that the guys have, I don't question that one bit. I don't.
That's what I didn't mean you throw it up because you quit. I mean, it's like, is it ever going to end?
Yeah, good question. Good question. No, but we fight. That's what we do. We fight. We battle, and we push forward.
I know you pride yourself on being the more physical team. Did they beat you to that tonight? Were they the more physical team?
Well, when they hit their quarterback 12 times, that's I don't like that. I don't like that stat at all, and it's not a healthy way to play or a healthy way to keep our quarterback healthy through the remainder of the season. So that's just not a good formula right there.
John had a slow start and fumble. Obviously, he was able to bounce back and make some big plays. Just how do you evaluate his night overall?
Yeah, he's a heck of a football player. Big part of our team. Made some big plays for us as well. Obviously, he'll want that play back. He's usually sure-handed, and in particular when he's carrying the ball. So I don't know who it was that came in there. It was an underneath cover guy and played with what we call violence and violent hands and violent arms, and he made a good play on the ball right there on the tackle.
John, the decision to have Keon in active, was there anything new conference-wise with that? Or
Anything new, did you ask?
anything new?
Nothing new. No, we're just taking it one day at a time right now. Thought he had a better week, and we move forward one day at a time.
Just to clarify, is this an extension of the discipline
Well, listen, it was a short week, so we had basically 2.5 days, and you got a game plan and all those types of things. So, but it wasn't that it wasn't thought about. It was just like anything else. But just felt like we went with the guys that like we always do, try and do, unless the situation comes up like it did, go with the guys that give us the best chance every week. Go ahead.
Just one last thing. Yeah. Offensively, as you're trying to figure things out, you talked about scoring the game. That is a really good defense. But did it feel like at times that maybe on offense it was a little bit too predictable?
Well, again, when you're not winning first down and you get into second down and long, that's what becomes predictable. And then their D-line pins their ears back and they go. And they're built that way for a reason. So and then that's where the hits come. Second down and long, that turns into third down and long. And again, that's the formula, the unhealthy formula I'm talking about. And then Josh takes too many hits, and so we've got to figure that piece out. And I believe in our offensive staff. I believe in our coaching staff overall. I thought the adjustments on the defensive side were really good tonight, going into the second half I'm talking about, and kept us in the game. But again, not enough. Not enough. Field position, like I said, penalties on special teams. So we just overall, to have those things come up, that combination of areas, and then still have a chance to win the game, says a lot about the effort that the players gave tonight. As far as I know, he is. I've not heard that directly from the trainer, though. I just know he was held out of the game. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, Sean McDermott talking to the media after the Bills lose to Houston 23-19. A lot of different things to get into from that press conference. We're going to be on the air here until about 12:30. Again, if you want to comment, go to the News 8 Facebook page or to my X page, ThadBrown7 on X. First thing I want to get into was both Josh Allen and Sean McDermott got a question about Allen caught on camera after the fourth down run to James Cook that we've talked about a lot here that failed, looking up at Mitch Trubisky and pretty clearly mouthing, "What are we doing?" Allen said that the play came in late and he felt he should have called a timeout. I have my take on this, but I want to let you guys have this one first. Rachel, I'll go with you. Give me your reaction to hearing that. Does it change anything about how we view that play, or even if you want to take it bigger, about the state of what the Bills' offense was in this game against the Houston Texans?
I think it does change how I view the play. I mean, if it did come in late, that maybe explains why it didn't work so well. I mean, just kind of blankly putting it. But I mean, the state of the Bills' offense, I think there's just a lot of issues that this Bills' offense is seeing from Joe Brady, like we've talked about, to whatever that performance was tonight. I mean, I don't know. It changes a little bit of how I feel about just maybe that's why there were some issues, but at the same time, it's 4th and 1. I mean, you kind of have to expect what you're doing with that play, or what, you're handing the ball off to James Cook. You have to figure this is what's happening. And I get the frustration from Allen, but at the same time, I mean, it was just, I think this further amplifies, is the word we keep going back to. I think this just further amplifies. There were just issues from the coordinator side all the way down to, obviously what was happening on the field. So it changes maybe a little bit, but not really in the grand scheme of things of how this one played out.
In a grand scheme look, I will always say, if I have to get 1 yard and I know the snap count and you don't, I should get the 1 yard every time. Now, the Bills, as we talked about, didn't run a great play for that philosophy, but in general, that's what I think. Caleb, I'm going to study this play a little more while you provide some thoughts for a minute, and to try and see if the timeout or the play coming in late really mattered. I'm going to be guessing at it, but go ahead for a minute.
I think this just kind of confirmed for me that what I felt like kind of coming out of this game, and honestly what I felt like a lot this year, is that the Bills' offense just looks, feels, and is lost at times. They're just lost. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know where they're going. There's times where it doesn't look like everyone knows the play. I'm sure they do, because you're an NFL offense, you should probably all know the play. But there's times where everyone just looks lost out there. In a 4th and 1, a huge play, 10 minutes left in the game, you're trailing by, it was a touchdown at the time, correct?
Correct.
A huge play in the game. And to get that in late, like if that is what happened, and I mean, I trust Josh Allen. I don't think he's pulling our leg or anything. I don't think he's
And
trying to stray us from
a-
anything.
Yeah, he is not a guy who would throw
No.
the organization under the bus for no good reason.
Exactly. I trust him that play came in late, and if that is what happened, I mean, that's just, in that situation, that's unacceptable. Kind of like what Rachel said, you need to know what you're doing in that moment. Like, you need to have a kind of game plan of like, okay, if we need 1 yard, what is our go-to play? And I mean, what was that? That was like the 3rd, 4th and 1 that they had that game. So, I mean, maybe they were deep enough where they weren't sure where, and kind of similar to my analysis on the why they maybe didn't QB sneak it, because they already ran it first and they saw this, and then they ran another 4th and 1 play and they saw something else. So maybe they just weren't sure what they were going to see, but still, like, you're an NFL. I don't know who puts the call in, whether it's Joe Brady or whoever it is. Whoever's putting it in, you work for an NFL organization. You got to be able to get that call in sooner than that.
I think calling the offense lost is strong. I'm not saying it's wrong, but
I know it's strong.
Lost is a
I know it's
strong word for this offense. That's still been. They just got done scoring 44 last week. They whooped up on the Chiefs
At times. That's why I throw in
That's
the
fine.
at times.
That's fine. I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's strong. What you guys are saying about the process not being good enough in that spot is spot on. You need to be. This is Joe Brady's 3rd year doing the job, not full year, but 3rd year. Josh Allen has been there forever. The offensive line has been mostly healthy the whole time. Everybody should know where they're supposed to be. That being said, I did, like I said, watch the play a couple times while you guys were talking about it. Osiris Torrance gets beat up the inside. So right off the bat, there's no cutback lane for James Cook. I don't know how a timeout or the play coming in earlier helps that. You just lost. That happens.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, the play they've ran it so many times that against the Chiefs, by the end of the game, they knew how to stop it. The Dolphins took it apart once and they never saw it again. The Bucs, it worked a little bit because the Bills made a little tweak off of it, but even the Bucs knew how to stop it. My take is from watching this play over that the moment Josh Allen goes, because it's counter play, you fake one way and then hand off back the other. The moment Josh Allen fakes one way and the blocking looks like what it's going to be, the 2 outside guys trigger, they know to get in the hole deep and the play's dead. So maybe I can see a world where the play came in late because, to your point, and you might be right, the Bills, when a team comes into a game, they don't have 50 plays for 4th and 1. In the same way, they don't have 50 plays for a 2-point conversion. You have a few. You might have ran out of what you had in the bag, and Joe Brady's thinking, counter run. Let's do that. That works sometimes.
Sometimes.
And the Bills got stoned on it. I mean, that it's a theory, but it fits some of the facts right now. The other thing we got to talk about here, and it was mentioned, Keon Coleman, in terms of whether or not it was disciplined. Sean McDermott said there was a thought about bringing him back. He said he went with the guys that gave us the best chance. So clearly this was not discipline for missing a meeting. I thought this was the better group on the field. And he did kind of reference, without directly saying it, that part of it was short week, didn't want to change too many things up. Rachel, I'll go to you first on this. How much did Keon not being in the game impact this game? And I don't want you to sit here. I don't want to be the excuse maker for Keon Coleman. Oh, the Bills should have had him in the game. He wasn't in the game because of stuff he did. But that stuff that he did didn't allow him to be in the game. How much of an impact did it have?
That's a tough question because we haven't seen Keon produce in the way that we think he should. But at the same time, we would like to think Keon Coleman is a better option than Gabe Davis or any majority of the receivers on the field.
He probably needs to be at some point.
So I do think that Keon not being in this game kind of does change the outcome of this game, regardless of if Keon is the targeted receiver in that final catch that Gabe Davis doesn't keep in bounds or whatever it is. I think it's just a trickle-down effect of, we haven't seen him produce, but we have seen him produce in crucial moments at times during the year. And I do think that even if he's in the game, it isn't this huge game changer. I do think Keon being on the field is a difference because then you have a group in there that it's, like you said, it's Gabe Davis. It's these guys that have not been relied on a lot this year. And even just having your core group of receivers that you had week one and where you're going to be your core group and that's a switch up and you're playing against one of the best defenses in the league. I do think Keon not being on the field could have contributed. Whether or not I think he would have broke out for whatever amount of yards, I don't think he would have. But I mean, I do think just the general maybe attitude of the entire receiver room would have been different if Keon was on the field.
Caleb, you can answer that question you want. Or the other thing I think we should get into is, does this change your opinion of what the Bills should do addressing Keon Coleman in that situation going forward?
Yeah, I'll kind of get to both of those. I agree with you, Rachel, that like having Keon there would have been good, like just consistency wise, like having that core group. I don't think he would have had much of an impact. If it's an impact, it's like they get a couple more yards or Josh Allen gets another 1 or 2 completions. I don't think they win this game though. But the thing that kind of strikes me the most is that I know Sean McDermott said that it wasn't because of discipline, but if the reason that Coleman didn't play is it's a short week, like you said, it's a short week and they didn't want to mess anything up, you gotta know that before you discipline him on Friday or on Sunday.
Well,
like you have to know that, like, okay, if he's going to be out this week and then we have a short week, are we going to want him to play on Thursday? Like that's got to be part of your going into it, like going into making the ultimate decision of he's not going to play Sunday. Thinking about the fact that you have a short week the next week has to be at least somewhat part of it, which makes me feel like I trust Sean McDermott that it wasn't fully discipline reasons that he wasn't sitting today. Like he did his time, it's fine.
That Sean McDermott was straight with us tonight is what you're saying.
Yes, but I do think that there is a small part of it that was still left over from missing that meeting, the fact that he didn't play. But also the comment that, we wanted to have the best guys out there. We wanted to give ourselves the best chance. The guys that gave ourselves the best chance, I think is what he said. To me, that just shows me that maybe the Bills don't have as much confidence in Keon Coleman as we would like to think that they do. I think it was either Monday or last week that I asked you the hypothetical of how long do you keep Keon Coleman if you're the Bills? And you said you got to keep him the whole time. You got to continue to give him options. You got to continue to give him chances because he's your second round pick. But the fact that they're like, against one of the best defenses in the league, in a situation where you are 7-3 and you're trailing the Patriots and you're 6th in the wild card spot and it's getting close to the end of the season, and this is a big game, and if you drop this, you're just digging your hole even deeper. And you decide to sit him and instead start Gabe Davis, who was elevated off the practice squad.
Tyrell Shavers, who had
backup. One good week. Now, listen, I talked about how much I love Tyrell Shavers on Monday, and I still do. But if you are more trustworthy of Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers and Palmer, who's been injured, and Dawson Knox, who hasn't gotten much playing time
as a receiver,
a receiver, that really concerns me about your confidence level in Keon Coleman. And that makes me think that maybe we have no chance of seeing any breakout because the Bills don't even want to give him an opportunity.
A lot of good stuff there. I want to go back to the point about knowing when you discipline him on Friday that you're going to lose him for 2 games. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of just came up that way. I think when the Bills put up 40 in the Tampa game, it changed a lot of what they thought. They thought maybe we had unlocked something. We went back to everybody eats. Keon Coleman, maybe he was even in the way. I had a thought this week that maybe Keon Coleman and his lack of separation was in the way of the offense. It was feasible for the last 4 days. And I think Sean McDermott got into a situation where, wow, I have new information about my offense and I'm going to act on that. I think going forward, if this ever happened again, I think he might consider the thought that, well, if I discipline this guy on a Sunday before a Thursday, I might have to lose him for 2 games. And how does that impact everything? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to kill him for it now, but I think that you got to think about that going forward. In terms of what the Bills do with Keon Coleman after this and not using him in this game, to me, the easy answer is that the big winner from tonight, finger quotes, was Keon Coleman. Because there's no way you can roll his offense out again without him on the field.
Yeah.
And I know there's not much reason to believe he's going to have much of an impact. But there were a number of plays in this game where your receivers couldn't get free. Khalil Shakir, like we said, had 100 yards, but half of it was not about a receiver getting open. It was circumstances that were beneficial to him. The rest of the receivers, take a guess. I'm going to look this up. Other than Khalil Shakir, how many catches did other receivers have in this game? I bet it's 3.
Couldn't have been more. Yeah. 2 or 3.
Rach,
tops.
what do you think?
I'm trying to even think. 4.
4 is the right answer. Gabe Davis had 1 for 22 on the first drive of the game, I think it was. Palmer was 2 for 21. And Elijah Moore had 1 for -3. It probably was a quick screen that went nowhere.
And everything else was the running backs?
Running backs or tight ends.
Jackson Haas caught some.
Hey, he had 2.
Career high, 2 catches for Jackson Haas.
Let's go.
He was good. The Bills are going to have to go back to Keon Coleman. Like there really isn't a choice right now.
You say go back though. You say go back like they have it all this season.
What do you mean?
There hasn't been Keon Coleman this season. You know, last year there were sparks, but they're outside of Baltimore. What is there to go back to other than just bringing him back in the lineup?
So here's the thing.
What is the expectation? You saw what the offense did without Keon Coleman in there, but you also saw what the offense did last week without Keon Coleman in there. So
it's a good question.
I would just
Yeah, I don't think Keon Coleman has much of an impact.
I don't think he does.
I think as a whole, like I know I did say like maybe him would change the outcome hypothetically, but I don't know if he has an impact on this offense
enough to really need him back.
I mean,
now obviously they're going to because they can't just sit him out for the rest of the year. You can't do that.
The bottom line is that you knew going into this game what the ceiling was for Gabe Davis and Terrell Shavers. Maybe not Shavers. Shavers could have theoretically been elevated. Mm-hmm. But Josh Palmer too. Josh Palmer and Gabe Davis are going to give you a level, and you know what that is. Keon Coleman, in theory, has another level he can get to. And here's the thing. You want to talk about what Keon Coleman has been? Other than Khalil Shakir, no receiver had more than 2 catches tonight. Keon Coleman has only had 1 game all year where he had less than 3. So 3 is not great, but 3 is still better than 2. So even if Keon Coleman has not lived up to expectations, he's still more productive than everybody else who was on the field tonight who played receiver not named Khalil Shakir. That's why you have to go back to him. Because in theory, there's a guy in there who could elevate this offense. I don't think it's coming out, but in theory, it's there. Whereas Gabe Davis, I know what he is. Terrell Shavers, I know what he probably is. He had a big 0 tonight. We should all learn a lesson from that. And Josh Palmer, who still, since the opener, has not had a single game where he caught more than 2 passes, which is a separate, ridiculous conversation we could have for a half hour we don't have time for right now.
So, question then. What is the new expectation of Keon Coleman? Because is there a new expectation? Because before, coming into the season, the expectation was breakout. That's what we talked all training camp. But now you're talking about productivity and just catching 3. So are we just asking him to go in there and be a productive receiver? Is that our expectation of him now? Because even up to before 2 weeks ago when he sat, I think the expectation going into every single game was Keon needs to do something. Like that was pretty much every single week. It was he needs to do something. So is next week's expectation going to be 3 catches for 30 yards, which is still better than anything that any other receiver gave us tonight? Or is the expectation still he needs to be something?
Simple answer, you've got the wrong word. The word is no longer expectation for Keon Coleman. The word is hope. The word is hope that something happens.
How long do you hold that hope for?
You're going to hold it for the rest of the year because you don't have a choice.
Okay,
the trade deadline is passed.
That's a good answer.
Here's my final Keon Coleman thought. If we're sitting here and saying Keon Coleman is productive in comparison to the rest of this receiver room, besides Khalil Shakir, then do we actually believe Sean McDermott is saying it is not a discipline issue? Because if Keon Coleman is your second, third best receiver out there, do we actually think that this is not a discipline issue? Because now I'm thinking, okay, Sean McDermott isn't telling us the full story of the discipline issue with Keon Coleman. Because if he was disciplined last week and didn't play, you would think, okay, if he's our second, third most productive receiver out there, we need to put him back out there. So what did Keon Coleman do to deserve this back-to-back week discipline?
It's a fair question, and I think the answer is kind of what we referred to before.
Yeah.
The answer is they scored 40 without him and then played on a Thursday.
Yeah, but
so you're still making a good point. It's kind of an easy excuse to be like, we look good. Exactly. Let's try and do that again.
If there's any time to take a chance on not putting him back in the lineup, it's when you just scored 40 points and you have another game in 4 days.
All right, we got about 4 minutes left here. Non-Keon department. Give me final thoughts in this game. You guys want to do rock, paper, scissors? Who wants to go first?
Rachel can take it.
Okay, final thoughts in this game. The offense is not going to get the Bills where they need to go. This offense is the weak point of, obviously, this entire Bills team. They have
hold on a second. I think the defense is still the worst side.
Okay. The defense is bad, but the offense. I mean, here's the thing: we keep talking about the defense, and I'll keep this short. But we kept talking about the defense, saying bend, don't break. And the reason this defense keeps bending is because the team relies so much on this defense. Because when the offense can't do anything, the defense, and it's a 1 touchdown game, the defense is the unit that's keeping them in the game. So that's why they're bending and not breaking, because they're taking all of this pressure off of the offense and doing what they need to do. So there's obviously issues on both sides of the ball. I mean, the receivers, I think, are the most glaring issue out of tonight, aside from the offensive line, which has been decent consistent the rest of the season. But I mean, the receivers are the number one issue, and I don't know how the Bills fix that for the rest of the season to get to this Super Bowl, even a playoff. At this point, the playoffs are what they're looking for. Caliber team for the rest of the season.
Caleb?
I think my final thought is that this is the least confident I've been in this Buffalo Bills team in the past like 5 or 6 years. If it weren't for the fact that the rest of the AFC East is kind of falling apart, you know,
the non-Patriots division?
Outside of the Patriots, you know, the Ravens they're still behind. The Chiefs are still behind. You have a lot of other teams that are kind of struggling to just keep up and keep going. If it weren't for that, I'd say without a doubt there's no way the Bills make the playoffs. I mean, there's just not enough consistency in this team. We talk about how they put up 40 last week. They put up a dud and stunk against Miami, and then they stunk again tonight. And the biggest thing that I need to see from this team is consistency, and there's just none of it to be found anywhere. Every single game, it's something completely different. You think you know what the Bills team is. You think you know what they're good and what they're bad at one week. The next week, they're good at nothing and bad at everything. And then the following week, they're good at everything and bad at nothing. And then all of a sudden, they're bad at different. It's just all over the place. I have zero. I won't say zero, but this is the least amount of confidence I've had in this team in a long time.
To your point about inconsistency, the Bills are now 3-4 in their last 7. They've got a couple nice wins, but they've got a lot of softness on the schedule that's helped prop this record up. For me, we let the defensive line off the hook here for a little bit. Where the heck was Joey Bosa in this game against a bad offensive line? That's something I just wanted to bring up before we're done. My final thought is this. Brandon Beane went in the season telling us they didn't need any more receivers. They were set. Everybody eats worked. What he didn't admit to himself is that they got away with some stuff last year. It worked. But by putting the offense in that spot where they were so talent drained on the outside, it strained everything else. And what you're seeing now is the dam is starting to break. The running game isn't there to save the Bills on offense. Now the offensive line's got to block ridiculous amounts of pressure. They can't handle it, at least in this game. The defense, which could pick you up, has just been beaten up. You lose that Oliver, that's something you can't control. You lose Michael Hoyt, you can't control. But by putting this offense as your fastball, depending on it to run the ball all day without any talent on the outside, you are asking everything else to be almost perfect. And it just hasn't worked. All right, we got to shut it down. Thanks for watching and listening tonight. For Caleb Carr and Rachel Liebert, I'm Thad Brown. We'll talk to you again on Monday.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand. Plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.